Justin has agreed to come sing for us today. This is a song you're all going to know. It's easy to get into. I Saw the Light. Pray for Justin.
Thank you. Can you hear me on this? Okay. All right.
I'm walking around like this, you know. You want to hug folks, you want to shake hands, and it's hard. That's tough. So, love y'all, and I'll give you an air five there. This has been a crazy week. We are in uncharted waters in our world right here. You know, 57 years I've been alive, I have never seen anything like this. And we don't know how it's all going to end up. We don't know where it's going to go, you know, how bad it's going to get, really. No matter where you fall on how serious you think the coronavirus is, you know, I know some people that are kind of in the camp of it's a little worse than a common cold, and then you got these guys over here that it's like zombie apocalypse, you know. I think we all fall kind of somewhere in the middle. And no matter how serious you think it is, it's affecting all of our lives. Each and every one of us. You know, the school closings, the restricted travel, the store shelves are empty, the businesses, companies are being affected, and some closed for a little while. You know, it's really, there's a crisis in our country, and I have to say to that, that's when we shine. You know, that's when we shine. If you are a Jesus-loving, transformed by Christ person, are the light that shines in this darkness, just like the song said. We are the light that shines during this time. You know, it's good to be prepared. You know, I'm not saying go out and buy 600 rolls of toilet paper. You know. It's good to be prepared. It's good to learn as much as you can, be informed. It's good to be concerned. But you know what? We don't react in fear. We don't react in fear. We react in love. And I was so encouraged this week. I saw on Facebook a woman on a church webpage that is Bible Church in Westport. She said, any elderly or immune-compromised people that need me to go get things at the store, need help, please reach out to me. I want to help you. You know, that's awesome. Yeah, and then another one I saw said, I can help watch with your kids. I know school is out for the next two weeks. You didn't plan on that, but I can help you out. And then I saw another one that said, I have extra baby formula. There's none on the shelves. I can help you out. You know, that's what we need to do. You know, we need to look for places to serve. Look for places, think outside the box. There's people right now that they're experiencing things they've never experienced with work and kids. And so think outside the box. See where you can serve and love people during this time. You know? Give people the hope that you have in you. You know? And I know that, you know, not everyone's here today, but if you are watching when this gets posted on YouTube, I'm glad you're there. You know, I'm welcome to the service. I'm glad you're there. Glad you're joining us. And I have to say, though, if you're watching on YouTube, there's something wrong with that YouTube channel because it makes me look much balder than what I really am. So, you know, don't think I'm bald when you see this. I'm not. All right, back to the sermon. We are in a series looking at Sermon on the Mount. It's the teachings of Jesus, the preaching of the greatest sermon ever. And it's in Matthew 5 through 7, 3 chapters. We get to see what it is to be a Christian, what a transformed life looks like, what a kingdom life, a God-centered life looks like. And we've looked at the first 3 Beatitudes so far, the first 3 blessings. And so far we have found that the poor in spirit have been awakened, and that we can now see our desperate need for God. And that leads to a mourning, a grieving, where our eyes have been opened and we can now recognize our sin and we are heartbroken over it. It hurts us. And that causes us to be meek, what we saw last week, to humbly surrender everything that is us, our lives, over to the will of God, to give it all to Him. And the sermon takes a turn right now. You know, those 3 things set up what it is to be saved. It's kind of the foundation of the sermon. Everything from here on out shows the fruit of that saved life. Kind of assumes you're saved right here, and it moves on from there and says, okay, here's what your life looks like. Since your life is built on the foundation of faith, this now, the rest of the sermon is what comes out of that. It said, I talked before about you have this transformed heart which results in a transformed life. And saving grace leads to a growing faith which changes you. So that brings us to the next beatitude, the next blessing. Matthew 5, 6 is what we're going to look at today. Matthew 5, 6. It says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. We could bow. Father, I thank you so much for your word. I thank you for how in these dark, weird times that it encourages us, it grows us, it teaches us. Father, I pray today that through this Sermon on the Mount, through this one verse that we see on righteousness, that you can change our lives. That the sermon that comes out today glorifies you, that you make me a plain preacher that even a child can understand. Please, God, just get me out of the way and let us hear your word and your sermon. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' I pray. Amen. So here it goes again. It sounds crazy. When you are hungry, joyful. When you're thirsty, we're happy. And just like all the other ones sounded crazy, we'll see that this one isn't that strange. Have you ever really, think this in your mind, have you ever really experienced true hunger or thirst? I would say most of us probably don't have any idea what that looks like. We've probably never been lost in a desert. We probably were never a prisoner of war. Just don't know what that feels like, because being hungry is not having to wait 20 minutes to be seated at the Texas Roadhouse. That's not being hungry. Being thirsty isn't waiting on 3 people in the checkout line at the gas station to get your Diet Pepsi. That's not being thirsty. Most of us have instant gratification when it comes to hunger and thirst. If I'm thirsty, I'm going to get, right now. My wife's got a bottle of water sitting right there. I know I can take care of that. We have instant gratification. So it's hard for us to relate to what it is to be actual hunger and thirst starved. The wording here goes way deeper than a slight physical discomfort. We may experience that, but this is suggesting a starving for food, a dying for lack of water. The point where you crave it, where you can't think of anything else but that. And I would say the closest I have ever come to that was I fasted for 5 days one time. It was just liquids is all I had for 5 days. And the first day, it was like no big deal. I'm like, this is nothing. I can do this all the time. This is easy. Second day, I was doing a lot of praying that day. It was getting a little rough, The third day, I thought I was going to die. I really did. It was terrible. I couldn't think of anything else but food. Everything I saw, everything I felt, heard, I smelled stuff that wasn't even there. I couldn't watch TV because every show on TV is a cooking show, And I could smell the food they're cooking, It was driving me crazy. And I was at work, and it says, I think we see it in the Sermon on the Mount, it talks about fasting. You don't want to look all haggard and starving. You want to not tell everybody what you're doing. So I'm at work, I'm working in the secular world then, and I'm in an office, and I'm trying not to look all disheveled, starving to death. And like 4 doors down, in the office down, I hear the bag open up. It was like Hardee's, And I was like in dog. I was like, somebody got something over there, It was terrible. It was terrible. I wanted that more than anything else in the world. I was starving for food. That's what it's talking about here, is that hunger, that thirst, that desperation for something, that you urgently yearn it. This week we had at work a biometric screening you have to do for your insurance. They prick your finger, take some blood, and they do all these little tests. That was Wednesday morning. I scheduled it for 8:15 in the morning because this is another fasting story. I'm sorry. But you have to fast that night. So 8:15, I can make it till then. Food's no problem. Coffee is the thing. I can't live without coffee. So I made my coffee. I put it in 2 big coffee mugs. It was a whole pot of coffee in 2 big coffee mugs. And 8:15, I'm just like watching the clock. And about 7:54, they came on and said, "Oh, biometric screening has been canceled." I didn't hear the rest of it. I was like, I was dying for it. That's what it is. It's that urgently longing, yearning that you gotta have it. It's all consuming. Every thought goes to that where you desire it. We are to desire hunger, thirst for righteousness that way. Like you're dying for it. You're starving for it. Righteousness should be all-consuming. Everything we think about, it should just hurt us. I gotta say, I don't know if that's the case with most of us. Probably the first thing we gotta get straight is what is righteousness? That's one of those big churchy seminary words, But But it's real simple. Righteousness is having a right relationship with God. That's what righteousness is. You have a right relationship with God. And if you turn to the Bible, there's two parts to righteousness. There's two sides to righteousness. The first one is salvation in Jesus Christ. 2 Corinthians 5:21, it says, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. That means that we are made right in the sight of God through what Jesus Christ did on the cross. That's righteousness. That we are accepted. He paid our price, so we are accepted as righteous before God. Because Jesus hung on a cross. There's no righteousness apart from Jesus. Romans 3:22, it says, this righteousness is given through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe. So the first part of righteousness is salvation. The second part is this salvation is worked out. It's living right before God. It's a right life before God. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, so all of us who have had that veil removed, we're saved. The scales are taken off our eyes. So all of us who have had that veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like Him as we are changed into His glorious image. That's righteousness worked out. That's a life worked to become more like Christ. It's not trying to work to get saved. It's not trying to work to look better in front of God. It's reflecting Him because of what He did in us. It's becoming more like Him because we are so grateful for what He did. It's out of love. It's out of gratitude. It's becoming more like Christ. You know, it's saying, you know what, God, I believe in the love that you sent your Son to die for me because you didn't want to be without me. That you wanted me in heaven with you. So I believe that, so I'm going to shape my life to be more like you, to be more attuned to what you say, to be more like Christ. Romans 6:13, it says, do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and offer every part of yourself to Him as an instrument of righteousness. Philippians 1:9-11 says, as this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best, and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. So you're saved, righteousness, and then you pursue righteousness. You offer yourself to righteousness. You desire righteousness. You're dying for it. You hunger and you thirst for a life given to God of righteousness. It's an ongoing hunger and thirst. It's this beatitude that we talked about today. It's a blessing. Will we ever be perfect? Will we ever be pure? Will we ever be blameless on this earth in this life? No, absolutely not. That should never discourage us. We should always still be desiring more of Christ. And it should actually give us hope that we do desire it, that we're not perfect. There's a famous pastor and author, A.W. Tozer. He said this, hunger is a pain. It is God's merciful provision, a divinely sent stimulus to propel us in the direction of food. If food hunger is a pain, thirst is 100-fold worse and more critical. The need becomes with the living organism, the more acute the pain. It's nature's last drastic effort to rouse the imperial life to seek to renew life. So you can live 40, 50 days without food. You get some severe hunger. You can only live 3 to 5 days without water. You got death hunger for water. I mean, it hurts you. And your body has this, what he says, this effort to find it. He goes on to say, you know what? A dead body feels no hunger, and a dead soul knows not the pangs of holy desire. If you want God, you have already found Him. Our desire for fuller life is proof that some life must be there already. You know, every day I am alive, I'm encouraged because I know I am saved. And how do I know that? Because I hunger and I thirst for the things of God. I have this radical shift in my desires. You know, when I was lost, before Christ in my life, I never longed for worship, ever. I could have cared less if I went to church. Now I'm excited. I can't wait for Sunday to come. I love worship. I love being with church family. You know, when I was lost, I never craved God's Word. In fact, I never read anything, to be honest. To read the Bible, blah, 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 I got no idea what that's saying. If I miss a day without reading the Bible now, I just feel like something's missing. When I was lost, I didn't yearn to tell people the gospel. I gotta be honest, I didn't know what the gospel was. I didn't have any idea. But now I pray every morning for the opportunity to share. And I pray for the courage to have the words to share. You know, when I was lost, I never dreamed that I would ever spend a dime going on a mission trip. I got to tell you, I'll spend all the money going on vacation, but I'm never going to spend a dime going on a mission trip. And it's funny, I look back now, you know, I've told you that we went to the Bahamas for 6 or 8 years, worked in an AIDS camp. When I was lost, I was in the Bahamas on a cruise. I couldn't go there on a cruise now. Because I know, you know, if you go to the Bahamas, you get off the cruise ship, and it's all Americanized right there. It's all pretty and shiny, and you can get anything you want. And you go about 4 streets over. Yeah, I can't go back to the Bahamas because I know what's there now. When I was lost, my every waking moment was spent thinking about hunting, fishing, and making more money. I mean, just to be honest, that's what I lived for, was hunting, fishing, making more money. Now everything's changed. I still hunt, I still fish, I still make money, but it doesn't consume me. You know, when I grew up in Ohio. In Ohio, you can't hunt on Sunday. You know, I mean, you probably can now. You know, everybody's getting all liberal now, you know. You can hunt all you want. But back then, you couldn't hunt on Sunday. I moved to Kentucky 20-some years ago. I'm reading the laws. You can hunt on Sunday down here. I thought, this is the greatest state ever. And then I got saved. And my choice is I go hunting or I worship with God's family. It's not even a choice. I never hunted on Sunday. I got saved. I'm here at church every Sunday because this consumes me. Christ consumes me. You know what? To follow God consumes me. Nothing else. It should be the all-consuming desire of our heart is to be righteous. So I ask the question. What is the all-consuming desire of your heart, of your life? What is it that you think about constantly? What stirs you up? What excites you? What obsession do you have? I mean, think about this honestly. What's your passion? Is it, you know, you're waiting for retirement? You're waiting for that next vacation? Is it your house, your yard, your truck, your car, your money, your stuff, your boat, your motorcycle, your weekend? You can't wait for the weekend? Is it sports? You live for sports? You're out of luck right now, I gotta tell you. Is it relationships? Some guy, some girl? Is it drugs, alcohol? What is it? What's the desire of your heart? What means more to you than anything else? Is God in that list anywhere? Do you desire God more than other things on your list? Now here's the thing, only you can answer that. You can fool everyone. Yeah, because you can come to church and look awful churchy. And you can talk the lingo, you know. There's church talk. You can speak that. And you can give a little, you know. The plate comes by. You know, make sure everybody sees that going in. You know, it looks like a $100 bill and it's a 1, you got to fold it just right, you know. You can appear holy. I saw a pastor said this once. Said, church is full of believers, unbelievers, and make-believers. Which are you? Because you can fool everyone else except for 2 people. You and God. Do you hunger and thirst for God? Do you hunger and thirst for righteousness? Is this ongoing hunger and thirst? Is it every day? Are you continually looking to become more like Christ? What does desiring righteousness look like? If we turn to the Bible, we can see examples. We can see it in the story of Zacchaeus. In Luke 19, 1 through 10, it says, Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. Doesn't that make you think of that song when you're a kid? You know, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. You know, it just goes through your mind. So he ran ahead, and he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He had gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor. Lord, and if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today. For this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. Zacchaeus was a true son of Abraham, one found to be righteous in a right relationship with God. You know, it says in the Bible that Abraham believed God and he was credited that as righteousness. Here's Zacchaeus called the same thing. He's accredited as righteous. Zacchaeus meets Jesus and everything changes. He can't be who he used to be, the old sinner, the old tax collector anymore. He can't do the same things he used to do. He can't cheat people. His desires and his heart has changed. Genuine salvation is followed by drastic change in the way you think, followed by this longing for righteousness. It changes who you are and what you do. It's unnatural in our humanness to think, you know what, people I've cheated, I'm going to give them 4 times back what I cheated them out of. That's a desire for righteousness, to be like Christ. One of the most dramatic and drastic examples of what desiring righteousness looks like, we can see when we read the story of Saul, who becomes Paul. In Acts 7, Stephen is preaching a message that shows how rebellious God's people have been through the ages. And it takes them all the way up to where they kill Jesus, the sermon does. And the religious leaders lose their minds. I mean, they're so angry. They can't stand it. So they take him out of the city and they kill him. Paul says in Acts 22:20, when the blood of Stephen, your witness, was being shed, I myself was standing by and approving and watching over the garments of those who killed him. And Saul hated the followers of Christ. Acts 8:3 says, Saul was ravaging the church and entering house after house. He dragged off men and women and committed them to prison. It said Saul is persecuting the church to death. But then we see in Acts 22:6-8, as I was on my way and drew near to Damascus, about noon a great light from heaven suddenly shone around me. And I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And I answered, who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. Saul met Jesus, and absolutely everything changed. He couldn't even keep the same name anymore. He was so different. His name of righteousness was now Paul. And I thought that first song you guys sang, never told you what the sermon was about, but that was the perfect song. His name of glory. He changed from Saul to Paul, and I thought, what's your name of righteousness? Because when I was lost, my name used to be selfish. Used to be absent father, terrible husband, mean sinner. Hate those names. righteousness, though, is now saved. Brother, servant, Christian, pastor. Love those names. So much better on this side. So much better in righteousness. Paul starts an all-consuming fire in Paul. Or Jesus starts an all-consuming fire in Paul. It's all he seems to think about it. He hungers for it. He thirsts for it. And it defines his life now. His whole direction changes. He goes from killing Christians to, he takes 3 missionary journeys. He plants churches everywhere. He preaches the gospel everywhere he goes. He wrote 13 books of the New Testament. He taught. Sorry. I really won't shake your hand now. He taught Timothy. Young pastor he was mentoring. 1 Timothy 6:11 says, "But you, Timothy, are a man of God. So run from all these evil things." Listen to this, listen. "Pursue righteousness and godly life, along with faith and love and perseverance and gentleness." The all-consuming desire for everything of God seeped into his life and took over it. You know, like food and water, he couldn't live without it. He pursued righteousness. So I got to ask, has that happened to you? Can you see this desire where your heart has changed, where you long to be different, where you think different, you do things that have changed, and you're not the same person anymore? Because I got to tell you, you can't meet Jesus and stay the same. It's impossible. When you truly meet Christ, everything changes. But sadly, there's people that go to church every Sunday with no appetite for God. You know, they just go to church because that's what they've always done, or you got to get your check mark that Sunday. Or, you know, good people go to church, so I'm just going to go to church. And maybe that's the way I get to heaven. You know, there's all these reasons why people go to church just out of religion and not out of love. And good church people, they go through life every day with no change. And you know, Jesus is kind of optional. That we can take him or leave him, and depending on the situation I'm in, I might pull him out. Sometimes people want to pull out Jesus like a gun, you know, and just use it on people. Or they just put it away completely. No one even knows you're a Christian. No hunger, no thirst, no righteousness. Now, do you have a spiritual hunger for God? Are you dying of thirst for things of God? Are you starving, wanting more and more of God? How do you know? That leads us to the last part of this verse. "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied." If you are truly desperate for righteousness, for things of God, for that life, Jesus makes his promise. He says, you know what? You'll find it. If you are searching it, you will find it. The prophet Hosea gave this message to the people in Hosea 10:12. "Sow for yourselves righteousness. Reap steadfast love. Break up your fallow ground, for it is a time to seek the Lord, that he may come and rain righteousness upon you." Man, don't you love that? Rain. I'm seeking you, God. Rain righteousness down on me. Because when we pursue righteousness, that's what God does. He rains it down on us. He satisfies us. He gives it to us. And when you hunger and thirst, he gives you more. And then you hunger and thirst, and he gives you more. It's an ongoing cycle. You know, if God has somebody hungry and thirsty for him, why would he deny that? Is your soul hungry and your heart thirsty? Have you been satisfied? Do you feel that longing for something, but you just can't seem to find it? Because if it's the Lord, he's going to come to it. He's going to come to you. He's going to satisfy you. So if you're seeking something and you're always restless, you know, the grass is always greener somewhere else, always left searching, maybe you're searching the wrong thing. The great tragedy for some people is that God is calling you to himself, but you turn away again and again and again for the quick fix, for little short bursts of happiness that the world offers you. You know, you buy into this little God time and time again when that's not the God of the Bible. You settle for junk food. When Jesus says in John 6:35, he says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. We have this in Jesus that we can be satisfied if we're looking, hungry, thirsty for the right thing, for righteousness. So, do you seek God? Do you hunger and thirst? David wrote in Psalm 63:1, O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Only at the time of invitation, I encourage you, please think about the first three Beatitudes, where we see our need for God, where it just takes us to our knees because we see the sin in our lives, and we turn to Him and give it all to Him. We surrender. Please think about those. Make sure you have that you have given your life to Christ. And then after that, think about what's been said today. In that salvation, do you now seek righteousness? Do you desire a transformed life from that transformed heart? If you're struggling with any part of that, please come up and pray. Please come up to speak to me or one of the deacons. Please don't get out of here today. I mean, these are the most important things. The most. So I pray that you really take a look at those in your life. An honest look. It says in the Bible, evaluate your salvation. Evaluate your life. This altar's going to be open. Please pray. Father, I thank you. I thank you, Lord, so much that you loved us so much you didn't want us to be left in our sin. You loved us so much that you sent your Son and he hung on a cross for us. You took our pain and our punishment. You took our death. You took our sin and gave us away to you. Lord, I pray today, if there are any here that don't know Jesus as Lord and Savior, that you continue to speak to them, that you show them how much you love them. Let them hear your words. Take away the calluses of their heart. Please, God, let them see you. Thank you, God, so much for your word and the message that speaks into our hearts. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.